Okay, so yeah, if you have any questions, so the structure will be David will speak about how we can train for UTV 2 weeks before. Then you can ask any questions that you have via video call, so we can see your face and your voice. And then to start off, so we know where your guys coming from. Can you comment in the chat your flag? Like where are you coming from, so we know. There's still people coming. Italy, nice. Slovenia, Netherlands, Slovenia. It's beautiful to see when you have so many people from different countries joining a webinar. It's like we're all connected. All runners are connected in a small screen. Poland, nice. Austria, lovely London. Nice. UK. Sarah. Hello, Sarah. Sarah Porter. Czech Republic. Nice. I'll do a poll actually, so we can see how many people. Is it your first? Have you signed up, or are you thinking? Let me find the poll. Polls. So. So we know if you are already signed up. Have you signed up for UTVV? Yes. No. Thinking about it. So it will show up on your screen. If you can reply, it takes a second. Let's see. You should see do you see it on your screen now? I'll leave it for 15 seconds so everybody can reply. And then the question will be, have you trained enough for UTVV? Let's see. So 77 yes, 9% no. Thinking about it, 16%. Nice. Okay, so that's good. So there is the majority you signed up. You've trained. I guess the second question will be, is it your first ultra or your second? So we can have a bit of context and know. First, how many ultras? First one. Never. No. One. Never. No. 5. All right. So that's. Have you ever done with training? Well, I guess no. It's a lifestyle, isn't it? Slovakian living in Austria, Czech Republic, Serbia, Slovenia. Dave won't sign me up tomorrow. Of course, Slovenia 7th. Are you done with Everton? Yeah, that's a good question. So we have first one, 22%, more than 136, never 28%, more than 5. Oh, wow. That's 15%. That's very good. So we can start, I guess, with David sharing your wisdom. And yeah, whenever we have any question, you can always raise your hand, comment, or just ask us a question.
Cool. Thank you, Alex. Just for those that don't know, Alex successfully finished the major trail series of Trans Gran Canaria this weekend in superb form. So yeah, we'll maybe dragging you in, Alex, for some answers too.
Thank you very much.
Give a little bit of context to this evening. So for those of you that joined the brilliant webinar last time, we were really framing things as if you had, 16 to 12 weeks left of training. And I think what's really important from a kind of coach athlete perspective is that there is a recognized period when you can try some things that you're not quite sure of the outcome. So that could be kit related, it could be nutrition related, it could be some minor details. Some of you may be less familiar with the type of race in UTVV in terms of the technical nature or elevation. Now, tonight's webinar, we're really focusing on the fact that there are, in this situation, 2 months left. And therefore, the sort of strong advice is to become a lot more focused and a lot more disciplined with your training. So we're really kind of looking for kind of questions and the subject matter around, what that means to be a lot more focused, a lot more disciplined. Based on some of the answers you've already shared to Alex's poll, some of you might be feeling undertrained. So I'd be very keen to know what that means to you, if you feel undertrained, or if you feel there are specific things that you're still unsure of. We can talk about them in the context of, the best way to approach it, with sort of potentially 6 really good weeks of training left, 6 to 7. And then obviously in the future webinar, we'd be a lot more focused on the last few weeks and tapering, logistics and race-based things. So yes, Alex, if we can kind of encourage people to kind of share some questions around that, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, so who wants to start? Who has a question that wants to ask David in regards to the training, or any specific questions? You can unmute yourself. I can ask you the first question. So let's say I'm undertrained and it's 2 months left for UTVV. What do I do? Do I give up, or what kind of training should I do, and at what mileage per week should I start?
So, I mean, you've already hit on 2 important things, haven't you, Alex? So any question that might sound like, should I give up? We're talking about mindset here, aren't we? And I'm sure you could give some real life examples of perhaps when you were thinking about giving up inside the Trans-Gran Canarian race at the weekend. So I think it's very important. I strongly suspect that everybody that's kindly joined the webinar this evening probably either isn't in that frame of mind, or we've got a very strong time frame to positively affect how they might be feeling from a mindset point of view. So again, I'd be really keen to understand some individuals' viewpoints on what they're doing for mindset, what tools they're using, what techniques. There's many out there to discuss. And your second point, Alex, I think at this point, it's mostly important to get away from the kind of generics of numbers. Mm-hmm. Outside of this call, I'd be very happy to chat with anybody if they have a plan and they're about to do one of the specific races and their numbers look like X. We could chat about that. I think, again, this is more one of the subjects that I'd love to talk about this evening is this kind of the concept of the mental side versus the physical side. So there's a lot of studies out there around, you know, the success rate of people finishing endurance events, largely due to mental fortitude and resilience. What I would strongly advise anybody on this call is that if you are undertrained, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a lot more. You're going to need a lot more mental fortitude, and boy, your recovery is going to be super painful. So if you want to have a better race, if you want to go stronger, and if you want to feel semi-human much sooner after the event, that's where the good training comes. So again, it's something we should explore. I don't think anybody on this call it's going to be impossible to achieve what they want to achieve, but it could be a strong balance between those two elements, Alex.
Okay. And Martin is asking, what do you do to fuel? Oops, 1 second. What do you do to fuel up on the day before the race and during the race?
Yeah, brilliant question. I mean, can we get Martin on the call? Can we have a chat?
Martin, show up.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, Martin, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, great.
Martin, it'd be really helpful for the other people on the webinar just to give could you just tell us, like, what kind of fuel do you like? You know, what are the sort of fueling that you will definitely be bringing to the race, and what are the types of fueling that you'd hope to see on the aid stations to help you get through the race? To give us an example.
Yeah, I don't really have an idea, but from what I've seen online, like pasta early in the morning just to fuel up.
Yeah.
And then during the race, probably something like Coca-Cola, a bit sugary stuff. When I do my longer runs during the weekends, around 40 kilometers, I just pack energy gels and electrolytes.
So that's brilliant. What energy gels do you use, Martin?
I used some from Proteini.c. That's like a Slovenian brand.
Yep.
And yeah, that's the only ones I've used currently.
And so for a 40K long run, which is brilliant, by the way, how many gels would you typically use in your training run?
Around 4, I think. I took one around once every 10 kilometers.
Yeah. Okay, mate. Thank you, Martin. That's brilliant insight. And again, if there's other people on the call that have a very different approach, we'd love to hear from you. So, Martin, what I would say, first of all, you're doing some brilliant stuff, because I can tell you as a coach, and some of my athletes are on this call, that most people, when they train, don't do the things that they're about to do in the race, which is basically, frankly, a scandal. So with 2 months to go, I strongly advise you all to, almost in every long run, create it as a mini UTVV scenario. So don't ever do a long run without the food that you expect to eat in that race. So for Martin, bit of Coca-Cola, boom, brilliant. Gels, tested, brilliant. Maybe, Martin, in the next couple of weeks, if you want to just try a few other things just to have a bit more of a backup, it could be a bagel. I have lots of brilliant athletes that like very small potatoes. They'll make up a batch of potatoes. Just try to get some savory as well as sweet. A really, really important thing you all must consider is salt. Salt loss, how much you sweat, which is a huge science behind it, possibly something we could talk about today. But adding some element of salt into a very long race is absolutely essential. So
excuse me for interrupting.
Yeah,
so
Martin,
like salt tablets, I've seen often people use those.
essential, absolutely. I would never do any race like UTVV without a salt tab. And the other thing is that I would expect that the weather to be potentially quite warm at certain stages in UTV, which is good, because you will probably know that you're sweating, and you will remember to take salt tablets because you're sweating. But if you do a winter race, you still sweat, you just don't realize it as much. You still need salt in any ultra race any time of the year. So again, how many people take a salt tablet on a long run? Almost none. What is your body going to react to a salt tab and a gel? I mean, you don't know unless you try, do you? So, with a bit of discipline, I always try and practice my pre-race, meal sounds a bit grand, but you know what I mean? I know that I'm going to eat a meal before any big race. So I don't go fasted before my long run. I take the same types of food out that I'm going to take in the race. Like, I'm about to do a 55-hour race on Friday. So I can quite imagine that after hour 10 or 30 or 45, that those first few gels, Martin, might get a bit boring. So, variety, if you're going to do, one of the longest races in UTVV, think about, variety, think about trying something a little bit different. And again, this is the really important thing of tonight's webinar, is you've got time to try these things, but with a few weeks towards the end of the race, then just stick to what you've tested, what your stomach works well with, and just settle with that.
Okay.
Thanks, Alex.
That's good. The next question is, sign up for 30 kilometers. Should my training be longer than that? Vid is asking that.
Brilliant question. Can we get Vid on the call?
Doesn't have mic.
Oh, he doesn't have mic.
Cool, no worries. Maybe on the chat, they could just say what their longest run so far has been. In my experience, again, this goes back to the point I mentioned a few minutes ago. It's important. There's a huge amount of value to be gained from thinking about the mental side of things as well as the physical side of things, and the fact that on the race day, you take advantage of so many things. I mean, having other runners around you is so uplifting. Having the incredible volunteers at the aid station, it's just, they will say to you, "You're doing great. It's only 2 more hours to the next aid station. Enjoy the view." And all of these things that you typically don't experience, they're the things that get you from what was your previous longest run to the longest run you've ever done. So I'm more than happy, especially when I coach athletes, to know that they've typically done half the distance or 2/3 the distance. That's absolutely fine. If they're training exceptionally well, then they on the day, even if it's the first time they've ever done those distances. I do recognize that for many people, they still are unsure of themselves. I know a lot of people that really mentally want to have done the distance to prove that they can do the distance, and I totally accept that, but there's no science behind that. It's personal. It's the way that you're framing it yourself. So yeah, feel extremely confident that if you're about to do a 30k race and you've done 15-20k in training, you're going to be absolutely fine on the day. I mean, you could probably do it having done almost no training, to be honest. Again, it goes back to the point I made before, which is, how do you wish to train? Do you wish to turn up and the whole thing be a shock, a surprise, and you're more likely to fail, struggle, and have a painful experience? but it's definitely not impossible. But yeah, I'd much prefer it if you were feeling very confident around 2/3 of the distance, and that way you're more likely to have a great experience.
Okay. Then Daniel is asking, is there, I mean, it's the same as similar to the previous question, is Daniel is asking, is there a minimum of kilometers I should run per week to be able to finish easily the ultra run, 60 kilometers in my case? I guess the answer is the same as previous.
Are they on the call? Can we get them on, Alex?
Daniel, can you unmute yourself if you are on the call and have a mic? See, can't talk, sorry. So he can't talk.
No worries, no worries. I mean, what I would say is, I mean, first of all, one of the strong philosophies that I have is that, you know, this hopefully is something that you want to do beyond UTVV. You know, being involved in trail running, you know, being outdoors, being in nature, like I say, being in the, you know, the wonderful kind of community that exists here. It's totally infectious, and you'll meet people at UTVV and they'll go, have you been to this range in Slovenia? And you'll meet people from the Netherlands and Poland and they'll go, you need to come and do our trails and our race. So, you know, with that mindset, you know, it's all about, for me, the long-term view of your own health, your well-being and love of the sport. So again, I mean, you're going to learn so many things by doing this UTVV event, and some of the things you're going to get right and some of the things you're going to make, you know, a real hash of, but love them all, embrace them all. So I try and get people to think about that philosophy now. With 2 months to go, you're already living the dream. You know, you're living the dream by, and also give yourself a lot of respect. You know, you're genuinely, in order to train for UTVV, you know, you're putting in a lot of effort already, genuinely. You know, benchmarked against, you know, there's a lot of people not doing exercise and not feeling like they wish to challenge themselves, and you're already doing all of those things. So, you know, embrace that part of the journey. So if you're setting yourself a target, so in Danielle's case, for like 60K, you know, if you're doing 3 or 4 runs a week and you're varying your runs, so I'd be recommending that you get a bit of speed in one of those runs. I would be insisting that you try and find some hills every week from now on. You know, if that requires you to buddy up with a few people and travel away from where you live, really try and do it. Now's the time to get into the terrain. You know, really do your homework around the race that you're about to do. So get a piece of paper and a pen, write down the distance, write down the elevation, and work out how much elevation there is. You know, where does it come in the race? Is it the beginning? Is it spread out? And just trying to bring some of that knowledge that you're learning. Go onto forums. Obviously, we've got the race director here tonight. Ask him some questions. Start doing some of those things in training. So when you get to your long run, you know, the questions that you're asking myself and Alex and Bostian, ask those questions to yourself. You know, is this good? Does this feel like it's a good level for what you're about to do? And yeah, treat the maths that I mentioned before. Yeah, if you're getting, Danielle, sort of 30, 40K, 50K in, you're in a nice sweet spot. If you can do more, then yeah, you know, maybe see how you kind of manage that in the week.
All right. And then Stefan is asking us, in the lead up to the race, how should we think about stress of work? Like if work or stress is high, should we adjust our training to balance that out, and how?
Yeah. Wow, what an absolutely brilliant question. I tell you why it's a brilliant question. First of all, show of hands, is how many people here are wearing a sports watch? Just put your hands up if you're wearing a sports watch. Probably most people. I've got like about 4, and one of these is a watch called a Whoop. I'm not sure if any Alex is wearing a Whoop. And I'm not, by the way, I'm not sponsored by Whoop, and I'm not telling you to go out and buy a Whoop. What I'm saying to that brilliant question is, again, ask yourself the question, how are you assessing your own stress? And it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do, but it's a good starting place. So I found in the past, using my Garmin, and now I use a Coros watch, that they do provide some information. And I just particularly found that because I was deeply fascinated by this subject, I wanted to study and learn a bit more. I mean, you can learn a lot by listening to some really fantastic podcasts, and maybe Alex and I can accumulate a few of these and share them, Alex, through the email distribution. But so what I will say is there are some basic metrics that you can all access. One is your resting heart rate, and most of our watches have what's called a heart rate variability. What you need to do today, tonight, and in the next few weeks is just make a note of what your data numbers are. And to Stefan's point, as you get closer to something like a race, which absolutely is the time when most of us, almost all of us, get stressed and more stressed. And if we already know that we've got other stresses in our life, we're only going to compound that stress. It's pretty good to, just have some form of data which is accessible to us all, just to study that a little bit more. Obviously, a lot of this stuff is how we feel, isn't it? And if we don't feel good, then typically we're not good. So, Stefan, what I'll absolutely say to you is the number one thing of many things that you could be doing, and Alex maybe will explore more of this in the next webinar, but prioritize sleep. Sleep is the absolute gift that we all have that costs nothing. It's not a supplement. It's not to go off and see some fancy person that's going to charge you 100 euros an hour. Just go to bed early. just try now, and especially when you get to the last few weeks before the race, prioritize sleep over the other stuff. And if you can start to get a bit of a better sleep routine, it will help regulate some of that stress. So, all of us need to recognize, don't we, that we're going to be a lot more tired in the race and post the race. If you can make some logistics with your work, if you can take a little bit of time off, ideally I'd be staying in Slovenia a bit longer and seeing the beauty. These are important things, aren't they? There's a lot of choices that we have to make here, don't we, in terms of our own impacts. There's a lot of us that would be typically flying to Slovenia for this race. So, as part of a member of someone that's trying to observe that, maybe not fly as much, or see if there's other alternatives, I'd be treating my own self in exactly the same way. So how do I give myself a bit more time, a bit more recovery? And Stefan, yeah, great point. What I would say to you is, as someone who's not an expert in this space, I look for experts in this space. I'm a running coach, and I'm fascinated by nutrition and sleep and strength training and many other things. And I typically have a friend or a coach or a mentor in those other spaces. So again, try and speak to other people in your own networks and communities that might already be a bit further ahead in their knowledge, and just dig around, listen to some podcasts.
It's awesome.
Great question, by the way. I really love that question.
So Marco is asking, should we work with the target finish time or just take things as they go?
This is a really great question. Can we get Sarah unmuted? So Sarah
Porter.
is Sarah. I'm coaching Sarah. I'm going to pick on Sarah.
Oh no, why me?
Why you? Because you're my favorite. Sarah, how would you answer that question for yourself? So based on your own current feelings of UTVV, how are you deciding your time for that finish?
Is this well? I haven't decided if I'm doing the 60K or the 100K yet.
let's not fall out on the webinar.
Let's assume I'm doing the 60K. So I've already looked at last
Yeah.
year's results because
Brilliant.
I'm quite a competitive person. So I've looked at last year's results. And for me, because this is my first ultra, I've already decided I don't want to be last. So I've looked at last year's results, who came in the last 5, what time that is, which I believe is around 14 to 15 hours. And knowing now that I have a target in my mind that I want to do it in less than 14 to 15 hours. Now, then applying that to what I'm doing at the moment, I'm way out. At the moment, it's going to take me 72 hours. No. But yeah, that's the way that I've done it. So I have set myself a target in mind on time. Whether or not I'll get there, I don't know. And originally, and you changed my mindset on this, originally I was thinking, how do I finish this? Yeah. And now what I'm thinking is actually, okay, how do I finish this and in a respectable time?
Yeah. Sarah, what a beautiful answer, my friend. You're still my favorite. So what, I mean, like I said, what a fantastic couple of bits of advice from Sarah that I'd heartily recommend to everybody on this webinar. Again, similar to what I mentioned before, you know, being curious is a superpower that will help you in any endurance events. So, you know, try and learn as much as you can about your specific event that you're about to do. So look at the results, you know, how many people were in that race, what was the first time, what was the last time, what were some of the averages, you know, all of those things. And then start to assimilate that with, you know, how you're feeling about the event yourself. So one of the things that I will be doing with Sarah in the next few weeks is what we like to do is, you know, it's quite healthy to sort of set a range of goals for yourself for the race. So, you know, you can call it an A goal, a B goal, and a C goal, you know, for the purposes of kind of giving it some sort of naming convention. You know, what I have experienced in the past with people in ultra events is that if you don't do that exercise, you're going to be disappointed, but you won't know why you're disappointed. You're just disappointed because you've got to the end of the race and you're going to be absolutely shattered, and you'll be shattered for the next few days. And then you'll start to process some things. You'll have observed other people in the event, and part of your brain will be going, maybe I could have gone quicker than them, or, you know, maybe you could have said I could have spent a bit less time in that aid station, or, you know, these are the things that you can think about now and have a bit more of a structure of, so that you're more at peace with them when they actually happen. So again, you know, this is where a coach athlete relationship is obviously very powerful, because even myself as a runner about to do this race this weekend, you know, if it was left to myself, I'm not quite sure fully what the answers are. But, you know, if you've got the trust in a relationship with a friend or a coach, and they say, hey, you know, based on your running and based on some of the things you've been sharing, I think you could typically do that race in, you know, in X. That becomes your point, that is your reference point. And then you could say, well, you know, if I have the perfect weather conditions, and if I eat really well, and if I do these other things, maybe I could be 4 hours quicker on the best day ever. then suddenly you've got a very sensible range to be dealing with, which, it doesn't work for everybody, but it typically works for most people, because it gives most runners tend to be slightly analytical. The ultra marathon world tends to be full of a lot of people who are sort of business orientated, and they like problem solving, and these things help feed into, where should I be? What should I be doing here? Is this the right thing? And if you've prepared for these things, you go, yes, tick. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, maybe I was a bit less efficient in that aid station. This is why on the next station I will spend less time. And you're thinking about it, and thinking about these things now, practicing these things now, you become more of you and your own personality into the race. So again, you won't solve all of the things on this call, and you won't solve all of the things in your first UTVV race, but typically for most people, that's when it gets exciting to go back and do it again, maybe to do a better version of the same distance, or to step up to the, hopefully you'll enjoy learning so many things. It's what I love about it, so yeah, but you can practice a lot of stuff, Alex.
Awesome. So Sasha is asking how to minimize the impact of a week of illness on your physical form. Should you do at least some low intensity activities like walks or easy hikes? Don't want to lose too much of my form after doing very good training for the last 6 months.
Yeah. This is a brilliant question, isn't it? Because there's probably nobody on this call that either A, hasn't been sick with some mystery virus for the past few months, or isn't, like me, worried that they're going to not feel 100% at a certain point in the next few weeks. So yeah, what I would say, first of all, I mean, there's a few things to unpack here. Critically, and I guess this is a sort of science-led thing, if you've been training, say, for a couple of months, and then you get ill and you sit at home and you do absolutely nothing, you would need at least 2, 3, 4 weeks of doing nothing before there would be a major impact in your physical abilities. So you won't lose anywhere near as much as you mentally think you are by not doing those things. So it's really important to tell yourself that, because to the question, a lot of people leading up to a race will do things that they shouldn't do because they're very worried about losing their fitness. So if you've got a bit of a bug, number one priority is to look after yourself, and that usually should be dialing into recovery. So not trying to do exercise or chase miles or stuff. Sleep, eat well, hydrate, just look after yourself. Spend a few days a week doing that. Just get yourself back. I tend to get quite frustrated with myself after a few days of behaving like that. So I would probably buck my own trend, and I probably would start walking. I think walking is massively underrated. I think most people think about running as exclusively running. And I'd strongly imagine that almost everybody on this webinar will be walking sections of UTVV, either up some of those hills or down some of those hills, or just into aid stations, out of aid stations. So practice walking, be mindful, have some intention with your walking. What is your fastest walk pace? Do you know it? If I sent you out for a 1 hour walk, how much distance could you cover? So again, I'd use the time to get back into spaces that were good for me. So just some kind stuff, some gratitude practice, some walking, And, you know, I'd hopefully, Alex, within a week of that care, I would start to feel a bit more comfortable returning back to my training plan. And I wouldn't be trying to catch any up. So I wouldn't be trying to take training miles that I missed and adding them in. I'd just be looking to get back into what would have been my plan.
Right. And then I think the next question ties up to the previous question, which is Thomas is asking if he is limited with time and can't push as much volume, where would you put the focus and training to be decently prepared anyway? So
who's the question from, Alex?
From Thomas.
Thomas, can we get Thomas on the call?
Thomas, can you unmute
Can you
yourself?
hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, Thomas.
Hello.
Hello, my friend. Thomas, which event are you doing?
I'm thinking about the 60K.
Fantastic. And I'd be really kind of you if you were to share what is your training for this week? How many runs have you got? What kind of distance? What sort of are you hoping to do this week, buddy?
So I'm gonna do a 5K race in like 3 weeks. So it's a lot of speed sessions. It's usually about like 40 to 50 Ks a week. I've been doing trail runs on the weekends, so like between 15 and 20K over the last 2 months as well.
Yeah.
So that's probably how much I can put in over the next couple months as well. So yeah.
What's your longest training run been in the last kind of 6 to 8 weeks?
I was 21K, so like half marathon with some elevation, like 800, 900.
Yeah. And what's the longest run you've ever done?
A couple of years ago, I did an ultra. It was like, I think it was 85K.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was mostly
Okay.
hiking though. Not much running going on there.
Cool. Thank you, Thomas. Again, I mean, hopefully people have picked up some important sort of metrics from Thomas there, yeah, which if he'd have answered differently would have given me a sort of different perspective. I mean, I think it's, you know, if you have done similar types of distances, so like Thomas has done an 85K, he's thinking about doing a 60K, I'm massively comfortable with his ability to think about that and process and take some of the good things from something, even if it's something you did a couple of years ago. You know, one of the interesting things I picked up from Thomas, which I hear all the time, and again, you probably all know this, you know, the classic thing, the 7 whys, when you ask someone a question and then you ask them a bit more of a question and another question. It's like, what? Okay, so Thomas wants to do a 60K. Like, why is he doing a 5K? Why is he doing a lot of short stuff? Why is he doing more short stuff? It's the classic kind of coach athlete situation where someone says, you know, I want to be X, but I also want to be Y. You know, I want to be the fastest runner, but I also want to be the heaviest weightlifter. You know, you got to understand ultimately that you're better off being one thing rather than 2 things, because the 2 things are just going to pull you into a bit more of an average state. So I'd be having friendly conversations with Thomas to understand, like, if he's really cool with that, if he's genuinely happy to be doing a 5K race in 3 weeks' time, and because of that, he's going to find the 60K tougher and it's going to be more of a stretch. If he's happy with that, then I'm happy with that. But if he actually wants to be a lot more competitive in the 60K and, you know, be a lot more focused on, you know, like I said, the chances are that Thomas is going to struggle in some respect. Thomas, I'm only saying that, you know.
Oh, that's for sure.
In a friend,
at some point.
Yeah.
Anyway, no matter how well you prepared, so that's fine with me.
Exactly, buddy. Because like I said, I'm, you know, even from what you've just shared, I'm pretty confident in you, buddy. It's just like what I'm openly sharing with everybody is it's good to have that internal dialogue of, you know, why are you doing this race? You know, and if it's just because it's going to be a lot of fun, then that warms my heart. You know, if you say, well, actually, it's not really true, I want to come in the top 10, I'll be like, well, what is the top? Do you know what the top 10 is? Like, do you know how fast you need to get? You know, that's a serious amount of preparation and knowledge and discipline. But that's great. If that's what you want, then let's start talking about that. So I'm saying to Thomas, you know, yeah, I'd be just, as a coach, I'd just be managing those things. I'd be observing. You know, obviously Thomas could be getting some great speed stuff in there. And what most people would do in Thomas's situation would be he would fly like a superstar in the first 20K of the 60K because he's so fast and he gets excited like we all do. And then he'll have a terrible 30 to 60K. So as his coach, and I'd be saying to all of you, is that what you want to do? Or do you want to, you know, calm yourself down, be mentally prepared to rein in your pace because you haven't trained as much, but you've got the speed. So go slow, go calm. And if by 30K, Thomas is feeling like he needs to be unleashed, start overtaking people, start catching up and see if he can hold on. You know, he could have a really, really exciting race based on his strategy. But yeah, so hopefully, yeah, a few learnings from people there that it's definitely a no. It's not a no. It's not a wrong thing to do, but just keep repeating to yourself, you know, like, are your whys strong? You know, like, why are you doing this? You all do have whys, and it's just like, you know, refining it, being comfortable with it. And again, like I said, whatever you do in this race, hopefully you'll learn certain things about yourself and, you know, things that you'll take on. You know, I want to get a bit more technical. You know, I love the mountains, but I was really nervous about them. You know, I now realize that I perhaps should have spent more time in that terrain. You know, I shouldn't have worn these shoes just because they're my favorite shoes. You know, start to get some more acceptance of those things.
So because we don't have a lot of time, we have a couple of questions. I think we should go fast in terms of answering them now. And then people can ask questions to Bostian, to the race director if they have. And Bostian can come on and speak about the race. So there are 4 questions that we need to answer a bit fast. And then Bostian can come on board and you can ask him any questions you might have. So the next question is, how much kilometers from Martin? How much kilometers in elevation should we do weekly for 107 kilometer race with 4,500 meter elevation?
So yeah, very quickly, what I would say is, you know, that's so complex. So I'd say get my contact details, contact me, get my email. But yeah, it's a dual combination, isn't it? Like never, you know, work that stuff out yourself, ask questions, you know, forums are a great place for it. Have some degree of knowledge, but you know, certain things make sense, don't they, Alex? You know, you've just done a 128 kilometer thing. You know, there's a certain sensible level and then there's a sort of fine-tuning level. But yeah, if you're about to do a massive race in the mountains and you live in London like me in the flats, then you know it's got to be specificity. It's got to get out into hills. Yeah, don't just think about volume as volume on the flats. You know, you're better off doing half the distance but making it more specific than you are just banging out miles on a track or around a park or on concrete.
Yeah, so basically don't do what I did, which I trained in London. I live in London. I just ran around London. I didn't do any hill works. And this weekend I was nearly DNF'd because of elevation. So don't do the mistakes that I did and what David just said. Highly recommend find mountains, go outside and the mountains. The next question is by Monica. This is my first trail race, an ultra, and I'm really scared. But do you have maybe the #1 tip for a new ultra runner?
So what I would say, for me personally, this is such a social, you know, thing that I love. You know, for me, I love races because I love the community aspect. You know, kind of always come away with a new best friend. So if I was feeling like Monica, I would just buddy up. You know, I'd be focused on the fact that it's a really cool thing to do. There'll be so many other people in the same situation. I would be, you know, at the beginning of the event, you know, when you've got all the people waiting to start, you're going to be nearer the back, aren't you? Because that will be amongst your same kindred spirit. You know, be brave enough to start talking to people. Hi, I'm Monica. It's my first race. Actually, a bit nervous about it. Oh yeah, me too. You know, let's hang together a little bit. So, you know, go big and bold on sharing the experience. You know, don't be. There'll be so many other people feeling the same way. You know, I have absolutely no doubt that I mean, we should get Bostian on the call now, because I'm sure there's loads of examples of how positive and inclusive the volunteers are. Often you get people who have run the race on the volunteers. Just, you know, when you get into aid stations, ask people, you know, what's coming up next? Is there a technical section coming up next? You know, it could. I'd be very nervous about the weather. You know, is there a weather system coming in? Are the paths slippy? Are they very rocky, Alex? So again, I would be brave enough to be asking questions inside the race to kind of have a bit more information, so that, you know, I'm not just, you know, blindly panicking about everything. I'd know a bit more.
Joseph, any recommendation regarding hydration? At the moment, I take a sip or two of ion drink each 2 kilometers. I have half a liter for approximately 14 kilometers. Thank you.
Is there, again, if Anya or Bostian can answer this as well. So in the UK, there's a brand called Precision Hydration. And what they do, guys, is they have 3 products, and the products have a number against them, and those numbers relate to hydration, to salt, typically. So it's an electrolyte salt combination. So if you sweat a lot, if you need more salt, which you would ideally do through a test, but there are ways that you can kind of try. There you go. Alex has got the tablets in his hand there. So, you know, you either use a low dosage or a high dosage. So I'd go out to my own market, Netherlands, Poland, Slovenia, and see if there's something, either that brand or something similar. And I would at least test it, you know, because maybe it's not a product for you. But I really like that kind of science and the concept that there is a product out there that's, you know, a one-stop shop that's effectively giving me energy and addressing the salt situation. So, you know, if an athlete came to me, I'd say, well, just buy the range in the middle. Yeah. If you don't know whether you're a heavy sweater or a low sweater, at least, you know, try and find a brand that, and if it's kind of got a low, medium, and high range, then go for the medium range. I think it's brilliant. I think it's a very, you know, if you're going to be out there in a 3, 4, 8, 10-hour race, I think it's a brilliant investment for, you know, as part of your kit.
All right, thank you. Next question is from Matko. Is there a minimum number of years of training or distance covered in any of the races before the first ultra? I am interested in the 60-kilometer race.
So how many years?
Yeah, minimum years of training that you need basically to do the first race, which is he's interested, I assume, in the 60-kilometer race.
Yeah. So I'm sure
and find out in 2 months.
I'm sure a lot of people on this call would kind of appreciate that it's a ball of string answer, isn't it? So there is I've worked with people in the UK. There's a thing called Couch to 5K. So this is to get people who do no physical exercise to do a very minimal distance. And I have coached someone who's come off a Couch to 5K plan, to do my plan, which was 5K to 250K. So in 9 months, they went from a 5K longest distance to a 150-mile race, whatever that is in K. Would I recommend that for most people? Absolutely not. But the answer to the question is that in 6 months, you know, most people on this call could probably be trained to do the 60 or the 100K distance. I'm not saying it's easy, and it might require, you know, a phenomenal amount of dedication. For some, it might be relatively straightforward, but you're only going to become really good at it after about 2 or 3 years. You know, the best ultra athletes in the world, none of them, you know, most athletes DNF or get something wrong in the first couple of years. It's an absolute given. So, you know, you would do well again to think about this as a beautiful thing to be doing for the rest of your life. There's some exceptional athletes in their 60s, 70s, 80s, even a few people in their 90s. You know, be one of them and embrace the fact that you're going to enjoy this. You're going to try different terrains and distances, and not expect so much from yourself in this first ultra marathon, because you want to do so many more. So, you know, I personally see that as you know, you're more likely to get injury prone, aren't you, if you try and push yourself exceedingly in such a short distance. And I like the idea of maybe trying 50K as your first event, then 60K, 100K, 100. You know, it's a nice way of thinking about. Some people are very impatient and just want to shoot for the moon, don't they? But yeah, so yeah, typically 6 months would be a nice place to start. 2 to 3 years, you're beginning to earn some of your spurs. 15, I think 16 years I've been doing it. Still no clue what I'm doing, Alex.
Yeah, well, I think Matko, you can sign up today and then tell us in 2 months if you finished it. Worst case scenario, you do half and been experience. So okay, last questions on shoes. Oh, shoes. What type of trail running shoe do you recommend for the 60-kilometer race? Hard shoe or soft shoe? Will there be a lot of water, streams we have to run through and get wet shoes? I think this is for Bostian. And a detail I want to add to this question: there is a possibility of a backdrop for the 100-kilometer, 160-kilometer, right? Where which distance will be available on the track? So I think Bostian is right person to answer.
Yes. Hello. Good evening to all of you. What was the question about the backdrop for the? There is possibility. Yes, there are 2 possibilities for 160K, around 60K and 100K. You can prepare your drawbacks, and for 100 there is the possibility on the 60K. So you have 1 drawback, and on the 100 mile you have 2 drawbacks.
And will there be a lot of water streams that we have to run through? I guess the checkpoints and water hydration.
Actually, on all the checkpoints there is the water supply and also the hydration with the isotonics. But I can't count how many water streams are on the tracks. There are many, but we can assure you that every checkpoint, which is roughly 10 kilometers separated, you will have the drinks and foods.
Can I just clarify my question?
Of course.
It's more around the shoes that I'm wearing. I know there's trail running shoes that are kind of waterproof, and there's trail running shoes that still soak up the water when you're going through little rivers or place of water. And I don't know how rocky the trail is. I was just wondering, like, is it recommended to get a shoe that is water repellent, or is a regular running shoe that is a trail running shoe also sufficient for the 60K?
Actually, it will be very dependent on the weather condition. If there is the very rainy condition, you you are advised to use water repellent, but normally it's wet after several kilometers. So on the 60K, you will not have the transition bags during the race. So you can do you need to do it with your own shoes, or you can carry another shoes in the backpack. But normally the trail is dry. There is no, in the case of rainy weather, the shoes definitely will be wet.
Clear. Thank you very much.
What trail
welcome.
shoes do you wear at the moment, buddy?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question.
Yeah, what's your favorite trail shoes? You know, what would be, you know, the shoe that you like wearing at the moment?
So I'm a regular road runner.
Yeah.
Did a couple marathons, and this is going to be like I did a couple smaller trail runs. So
Yeah.
my favorite shoes are still regular running shoes with a little bit more grip. That's my favorite. I know in the store they sell like the harder shoes, and I haven't bought them yet, and I'm kind of trying not to buy them because I prefer the soft shoe.
Yeah, I mean, shoe choices and preferences is unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, there's no doubt that there's a kind of a different shoe for almost every eventuality.
Yeah.
and as someone that's trying not to own too many different pairs of shoes, what I would say to you as well is, like, based on your question, I've done a lot of races more recently where, you know, I was going to be traveling through water. So, you know, even if the conditions above were hot or dry, you know, I knew my feet were going to get wet. And obviously if the weather had been wet or whatever, they were going to get wet. And so I did a lot, you know, interestingly, I did a lot of stuff around the socks that I was wearing and also how I looked after my feet. And it gave me the opportunity to think about, I could still maybe wear my preferred pair of trainers. But obviously, you know, one of the things you need to think about, if you are going to get your feet wet, you're more likely to get your feet trashed, and you're more likely to get, you know, the types of things that are going to cause you an issue further into the race. And you can prevent that by wearing 2 pairs of socks, where the outside of the sock is a waterproof sock. And you can experiment by, there's certain, you know, like Vaselines or certain things that you can coat your feet in to effectively give yourself a protective coating around your feet before you put the sock or your shoe on. So again, rather than necessarily having, like, you know, the shoe doing the repellent stuff, it could be the sock, it could be your feet. So, you know, it's worth everybody experimenting with these things, you know, over the course of many months, just so that, you know, on race day, that might be a way to solve a problem. You know, you might only, as Bosjan said, it's quite rare to have the luxury of, you know, multiple pairs of shoes in one race, but actually inside a race, sometimes you wish you did have different types of trainers, you know.
Cool. I never thought about different socks because I always wear the same brand. So I'll investigate. And I just want to say I signed up for the 60K, booked my flights. I'm excited and scared. And thanks for setting up these Zoom meetings. They're really helpful.
That's amazing, buddy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Sarah just commented foot cream. So I guess basically the point is the main takeaway, I think, is just try different things. We have 2 months left, as David said, socks, waterproof socks, different brand shoes. But I would definitely say do not try new stuff on race day, because obviously it's common sense, but sometimes I think we all make the mistake of trying because it's like, oh shit, I get a bit nervous. So if you have any questions, you can get in touch with David Bone at Camino Ultra. His email, like I wrote in the comment section below. You can get in touch with David, ask him any questions you have. If you're thinking of signing up for UTV, obviously you can sign up, go to our website. And if you have any questions for Bostian, for the race director, you can, I guess, email us or ask now. And yeah, we'll be back in a month again with David. And that's it from me. David, you want to add something?
Yeah, one of the first of all, I love these webinars. They've been absolutely amazing. I think it's in the true spirit of UTVV, which I've been, blown away with ever since Alex got me involved. So I think, for any first timers, they're in for a massive treat by the way they look after their runners and the way they set up these races. So yeah, I mean, my takeaway is you've got a chance to positively influence your race in these next few weeks of training. This is where stuff that you genuinely do in the next few weeks will pay dividends on race days. So again, be specific, get in the hills, do hill training, ups and downs, hill reps. As Alex just pointed out, now's the time to finesse the kit stuff, because when we have the chat in a month's time, it's really going to be about dialing in and some marginal gains and the mental side of it. Now's the time to let loose, go punchy with your training, go hard, do the interval sessions, and they'll all pay dividends in a couple of months' time.
Yeah, I think this is really the last chance to sign up. And in terms of training, if you haven't trained, I mean, in a month's time, it will be, I guess, too late, because it will be too close to the race, first of all, and the event will be sold out most probably. Bostian, do you want to add? Do you want to comment and add your 2 cents?
And it was a really nice questions. Thank you. Thank you for answers also, David. And yes, today or tomorrow is actually the last day of the early birds, and then the prices goes up. The entry is selling up really quickly. So if you are decided to go, just go today. And yes, in 1 month, I think there will be more question about technical conditions about the race, and we are here for you to answer. So if you, as Alex said, if you have any questions, just email us on info email of Ultra Trail, and we will answer you.
Fantastic. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for bringing your energy and your questions and your passion. And well, most of you will see in 2 months, and some of you will see in a month. And yeah, hope you have a great evening.
See you guys.
Bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.